watching Tiger King, watching The Last Dance.
I guess I'll start with The Last Dance. I'll geek out. What have you enjoyed the most about it, you think?
Just seeing the side of Michael that I didn't know about, right? I know, it's legendary how competitive he was and how combative he was and how demanding he was. And, when you're Michael Jordan, you can get away with that stuff. But you didn't really get to see the stuff with the security guards and everything. Look, I've known him now since he bought the Hornets. I actually knew him before then. And he's a good guy, man. I've always had fun. I've hung out with him. But the whole thing with the shrug, with the security guys and everything, that was a side of him I really didn't know. So it was good to see.
It's interesting you mentioned the security guards. It's almost as if he felt more comfortable just hanging with them than going out and being Michael Jordan.
Yeah, there's no question. You go out and he just gets slammed. I mean, I get it now and then. I can't even imagine the level that he was on, right? And then, you try to stick to people that you're comfortable with, that don't want anything from you. And that security guard team obviously were his guys, man. And, I mean, who the hell flips quarters? I mean, just.
And it has to win. Has to win.
Has to win. It just keeps on pulling out the 20s and just like that's being a machine, man. That's having juice that goes for days.
Yeah, he's different. What do you think because we have two more left, but I guess the biggest thing for me is like, how will we as the NBA and just the whole community of sports fans, how will we perceive him after this is done? Like, as
more human. Yeah, more human. I mean, I think, he's always been legendary and he'll continue to be legendary, but you didn't really get to see him, the person, right? Because especially the players, right? They've seen highlights, they've seen stuff on YouTube, but never anything that really just humanized him, for better or worse, right? Yeah. The good and the bad. And I think that'll allow a whole new generation to connect to him. Like I grew up, man, I remember getting my first VHS tapes with Michael Jordan, Come Fly With Me, and just thinking,
yeah, that was great.
Yeah, the most crazy thing that I've ever seen in my life. And I remember like when we started broadcast.com and got to video, going to North Carolina and getting rights to all his old games and streaming them online. This is like 1998. And that was such a big deal, right? Because you can go back and watch any of his old North Carolina games online. And just really getting to see him play as a college player and just seeing, you don't really think about it when he was playing, but my God, it was just, it's just interesting, just all the pieces.
Really, yeah. You mentioned the humanizing. That's what I go. That's where I go, especially when you think about him as a teammate. Like, I feel like he was a great teammate, even though at the time the Scottie Pippens and Rodmans and Kerrs probably to a degree hated him or at least despised him and felt like they were in this Michael Jordan prison. But it was all to maximize and enhance the chances of winning. For when it really mattered, they would be physically ready, but more than anything, psychologically ready. Let
me just tell you, guys, if you get guys a parade in a ring, they will put up with just about anything, man. Because when you're playing with one of the greatest of all time, you just got, guys realize that that's a pinnacle. Guys know that if you leave the game with a ring, that just gives you,
a whole nother.
Yeah, just a whole nother level of respect. Even if you weren't the guy, right? Even if you just happened to be there, it just brings a whole nother level of respect. And, and there's so many, the Charles Barkleys of the world, the Karl Malone, the John Stocktons, who never got that. Yeah. And so, that's how important it is. So, I think he might not have been the classic great teammate, but when it's all said and done, he was the teammate because he got you there.
Most guys I've talked to, in fact, I don't think I've heard anybody say different, have said to me, not only would they have loved to have been Michael Jordan's teammate, but they would have loved for him to come at them like that and get, extract the most out of them. Like even Steve Kerr, Steve Kerr has said that when he went back at Mike, that's when Michael really respected him. And that's what I think guys relate to.
And it happens all the time, even in the game today, man. If a guy backs down, he's the guy who backed down. If a guy steps up, and keeps on coming back and coming back and coming back. That Dwight Powell attitude. Dwight Powell's not a big name that just have heart, had that dog in them, the foxhole guys, right? And those guys would love, even though they might not have had the talent, if Jordan went at them, they'd be like, come on, let's go. Let's get to the next level. And, those are the guys I respect.
You mentioned Dwight Powell. It's funny. A couple guys told me, you know, when he was coming out of Stanford, they thought, you know, but quickly, like within 5-10 minutes, they realized that he was like a dog, and he's built up that reputation.
Yeah, he's tore his Achilles, and he still works harder than anybody. It's crazy. You know, he's one of those guys you have to pull out of the gym. He just works too hard sometimes.
Do you think that Rodman, I feel like there's a new appreciation for Dennis too. Like not only him as a player, but the fact that he's able to come in and he says John Daly was his God, but Phil was his Moses. And the way he studied rebounding, to me, like Rodman comes out of this, even all the Vegas crap and all the nonsense, he comes out of this looking better than ever.
Oh, yeah, because they didn't get into all the crazy stuff, right? They showed little glimpses of him, having fun and everything. And that kind of made him more fun, right, and more interesting. But, and it still holds true today. Like when you have somebody who's a dominant player and has a dominant personality, you can bring somebody who's different onto the squad, right? Because you know that they're going to defer to your superstar, to your greatest. Whether it's LeBron, Dirk, Kobe. Like Kobe didn't care what your personality was. Dirk didn't care. As long as you could play, LeBron doesn't care. Look at the squad they had his first year with the Lakers. I mean, that was a reality show. Yeah. He didn't care. And Michael was the same way. You bring someone who can play that gives him a chance to get another ring, and he was all in.
I could not agree more. Also, like, I wonder for you when you're looking back at this, and for me, it's a stark contrast just of especially in the early 90s, like the quality of the basketball is so much different. It's in the half court, measured possessions. Everything's condensed. Michael scored 50 plus without taking a three, even taking one. So how do you feel like, I'm just curious to get your
It's crazy.
Let's put Mike in this day and age. I think he's getting 45, and I think he's learning how to become a great three-point shooter, but nobody cares what I think. What about you?
Oh, no. I mean, he'd have a pull-up three. It'd be that easy, right? And, look at Harden. Harden doesn't shoot a great percentage from three, but he can get a shut off any day or any time with that step back, right? And he knows how to use that. He knows how to use his body. You never really saw Michael do that with the three, right? Could you imagine Michael having a step back, Michael having a pull-up three? And you didn't really see back in the day guys using their body to put someone on their hip, right?
Yeah.
And just using it to create space. Learning all those things. And plus, if with just the physicality being so much less and so much less impact on his body, 45 a night, easy, whenever he wanted it, however he wanted it. And then defensively, too. I mean, just being able to turn it up defensively and guard on the perimeter and switch to anybody. And now that you don't have the big Shaq-like bodies like you used to, just being able to guard 1 through 5 like that.
Guarded 1 through 5, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like from a spacing standpoint and the way guys take care of their bodies now, it's all about elongating careers. Like, Michael started lifting later in his career, but there's no cryo tanks then. Guys aren't getting the same level of treatment. I mean, it's a totally different ball.
He's smoking a cigar after every game, right?
Yeah. Before the games.
Yep. It's just like, just a different beast back then, just different science, different technology. But, and even with all that, he played into his 40s, with the Wizards. And so he managed.
I was also, last point on this, and so I want to move on, but I was also incredibly impressed with the fact that he leaves for 10 months, he plays baseball, he loses obviously weight, and then he thinks to himself, maybe I can steal another championship. He hasn't played. By the way, he hasn't really played at all basketball.
No.
He was focusing so much on baseball. And he comes back, and everybody thinks he struggled, and he was terrible in the 94 playoffs against Orlando. He averaged 31 in that series. So,
he put up 55 against the Knicks, a good Knicks team in the Garden, right? But a playoff's just different because it's more physical, particularly back then. And you're playing more minutes than you would in the regular season. There's no nights off the way there were in the regular season back then. And so, yeah, it was incredible. But you know what? It's a message for what we're going through right now too. I don't remember how many games he played to finish out the season when he came back. But then you saw him.
It was like 20, maybe 20, something like that.
Well, and here we are looking at how many games left in our season if we come back, right? And guys have to take right. And so you probably not even play 15, but to get guys back into shape, right? To get them ready for the playoffs. Man, if it was hard for Michael with 20 games. Just imagine what it's going to be like for all of our guys coming back. It's going to be different.
Yeah, that's a great lead into my next question about like how long would it take? Because I've heard guys say like, Like I talked to players who said it would take me an hour or two from a skill standpoint, but it would take me 2-3 weeks from a physical standpoint.
Yeah.
And that's what matters more.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, right? It's going to take, training camp is 3 weeks for a reason, right? But we don't have to put in place. It's just about physical conditioning.
Yeah.
And I think once guys have a feel for, a start date, they'll turn it up, or even just an inkling that there's going to be a start date, they'll turn it up. Because 2 months is 2 months, but, guys don't get that much out of shape, right? So I think a good 2 weeks of solid training and then a couple games to really get in game shape, because it's hard to replicate that, 3, 4, maybe 5 games and then go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Are
you optimistic at all? Or
yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, right? It comes down to science and keeping everybody safe. It's if you can't keep I use the White House protocol, right? We've got to be able to do for our players and essential personnel what they're doing to protect the president and vice president, because they have access to the best of everything. So whatever they're doing, that's what we need to do. And if we get there, then we play. And if we don't, we don't.
Yeah, you guys were starting to look pretty nice, I must say.
We got a squad, and, Dwight won't be able to come back this year. Well, I'm not going to speak for him.
Right.
You never know with Dwight. But, Lucas' hand was bothering him, and that was a problem. And so, he's going to recover. But everybody's going to have those knick-knack injuries that they had that are going to be gone now. And so everybody's
full strength. Everybody's rested. There's no more minute restrictions.
Everybody's dying to play too, because they're bored to tears. Just bored. Yeah. You get on these group chats, and I've even talked to guys from other teams, and they're just dying. Yeah. Just so ready to play. And so, when it comes back, because everybody's fresh, it's going to be a war. It's going to be a war in the playoffs. I don't care what anybody says. The playoffs are going to be great.
I totally agree. What's the roadmap then? Are we talking shortened series? Prolonged?
I have no idea. Yeah. Jordan, you literally know as much as I do. I'm on the media committee. I'm not on all those committees that deal with that. So I find out like everybody else.
So baseball's thinking, okay, we can come back in July, no fans. When you heard that, because I was surprised, honestly, when I heard that. What was your reaction to that?
I mean, the devil's in the details, right? Because saying you're going to come back is easy. Knowing exactly what you're going to do. And I'm not taking anything away from baseball. I'm sure they're doing all their homework, and all the leagues talk, all the commissioners talk, right? But making it work with a roster of 25 plus all the other people, right? That's going to be a challenge, and it's very equipment driven. So you're always touching stuff, right? Yeah. Your bat, your helmet, your gloves. And yeah, you can give each person their own, and that's the way it works. But it just, the clubhouse boys, you're going to see all the little nitpicky things that didn't matter before will matter now for all sports. And the more players you have on a squad, whether, basketball's got it easy, 15 plus the 2 ways, that's pretty simple. You only really need 3 coaches and a trainer, maybe 2 coaches if you need to, and a trainer. Whereas baseball, you got your 25 guys, and, football, 53 is going to be a battle.
The football's, I know. I'm very college football to me, of all the things, seems going to be
particularly college football. There's 70, 80 guys on scholarship, and they make all their money.
Enormous.
Oh, and they make all their money off a gate. It's going to be really, really difficult.
Yeah. Mark, you've become such a part of the fabric of Dallas, and specifically, I've noticed how involved you've been in terms of trying to help small businesses. And what do you think right now is the biggest challenge for small businesses? And obviously not just in Dallas, but throughout the country.
Demand, consumer demand. When everybody's afraid they're going to lose their job, or they have lost their job, or they've cut back